Hello, everybody. It's Adonica from You Do You Unfiltered. And I'm here on this beautiful day on a Tuesday at noon. I love it. So I'm here with Navi. I said that right? Navi.
Yes.
Navi Bliss, right?
Yes.
That's like a
Yes.
movie star. Sure enough, she did go watch movie stars last week. So we'll get into that later because I think people like to know about that. But this is going to be a fun one because I got nothing. And I'm going to say, Navi, introduce yourself because, yeah, please.
So I'm Navi Bliss. I'm a love and confidence coach, an inspirational speaker, and an author. And my journey actually got started because this is a question people always ask me. How did you end up becoming a love and confidence coach or an inspirational speaker? And the thing is, you do not become those things without having gone through your own adversity, right?
Absolutely.
And so my story started in childhood for me. So I grew up without having any self-worth or self-esteem. Sometimes people have a period in their life where they can remember that they lost it. I didn't have any because I grew up in a home with an abusive mother that constantly told me how worthless I was and how no one was ever going to love me and how I wasn't worthy of love. And so I never had that sense of self or that sense of self-love or that sense of worthiness. And of course, that sent me on a trajectory of horrible relationships because I was searching for whatever scraps of love I could get
Right.
from anywhere. And in searching for those scraps, that led me to some really, really terrible relationships. I ended up getting married when I was really young. And when I got,
Okay, how young? I want to know how young. Come on, give us some
so
dirt.
I was 23. So I was 23 when I got married. When I did, okay, I thought, okay, this means now I'm loved and now I can have worth because everything that my mom said about me was wrong.
Yeah.
And then my ex-husband cheated on me and had a child with somebody else while we were married. And then I realized, okay, you can't outsource your worth to anyone because instead of, let's just say my self-worth had been at a 0 to start, it went down to a -100 because instead of proving my mom to be wrong, he ended up proving my mom to be right, that I wasn't worthy of being loved and that I wasn't somebody that could be committed to. And of course, that marriage ended. And then being in that place that was even lower, it sent me into this place where I was going for relationships that were even worse and even worse and even worse. And then I ended up in 2 abusive relationships back to back
Oh my God.
in
So
this
instead
search
of
for
taking
love.
a straight road, you decided to go switchbacks? Kind of.
Yeah, well, because the thing is, when you don't believe that you're worthy of anything, and also we live in a society that pushes partnership and the idea of being partnered makes you more valuable anyway. So even if you have a high self-worth, this is something that you will have to deal with in society if you are not partnered, is that society is telling you that being partnered makes you more valuable person than if you're on your own, right?
Right.
And we hear this rhetoric all the time. This is going on in the media all over the place. And when your self-worth is nothing, when it's so low, then you will just, even if it's a terrible, terrible partnership, you are going to cling to that because you have this thought in your mind that it somehow makes you a more valuable person, right?
I think that's actually a belief system that we are, as a woman, right?
Yeah.
To make the
Yeah.
man happy, even though we're unhappy, right? That's a belief
Yeah.
system that comes up with us as
Yeah. Or
women.
that, and as single women, that we don't matter at all. We
You don't
don't
matter.
matter on our own, right? And
That's
so
crazy. Like
I
that's so
ended up in these 2 abusive, because I was in one abusive relationship. I managed to get out of that one, and then I walked right into another one. And then when I got out of the second one, I realized how lucky I was to be able to get out, because when you're leaving an abusive relationship, not everyone knows this, but that's actually the most dangerous time in your life, because a lot of people don't make it out because that person typically does not want to let you out. And so I was very, very lucky that I made it out, and I just realized, okay, something has to change
yeah.
and I can't do this ever again. And at that point, even though I was completely broken and but I was at my rock bottom, and I was like, okay, I'm willing to be alone if forever, if I have to, because otherwise, if I get into another relationship, that's it. I'm not gonna make it. I'm not gonna make it out again.
Right. So quick question, when this is all going around, where's your mom?
So, I mean, I had a relationship with my mom for a period of time, but it was always abusive. So at a certain point in my life, I had to cut off that relationship, because that was, if I did not cut off that relationship, then the abuse was going to
Okay,
continue.
I just was curious.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah, no,
curious.
absolutely. And that in itself is so hard, right? Because that was just another thing that was so much judgment
Yeah, absolutely.
for so long. And it's still something that I'll get judgment for. It's just now I'm in a place where it doesn't matter, because
Right.
someone else hasn't walked in my shoes, and they don't have to live my life. And I'm the one that has to live my life. And I
Right.
have to be okay with the life that I'm living, and having an abusive person in my life, allowing an abusive person into my life just because they're my family, just because they're related to me by blood, it's not going to make me a happy person.
No, absolutely. And now just a quick question. Do you have siblings?
No.
Okay, so you're an only.
Yes.
Well, that makes sense. Because I guess all the attention from your mom, which was negative attention, went right directly to you, and there was no anyone else.
Exactly.
Right. Gotta put it out there, man. I know, but look at you now. Okay, keep going. So you've left both men.
Yeah, so when I finally left that relationship, I realized, okay, I am the common denominator in all the relationships that I've been in, right? And I was at a point where I realized, okay, it isn't my fault, because nobody deserves, even though I didn't have this sense of worth, and I still didn't believe I was lovable at that point, I did have enough sense to believe that nobody at all deserves to be abused, and no one deserves to be treated badly. And so it wasn't my fault that these things happened, but I was the common denominator, and I was choosing these relationships, and I realized that I had to figure it out, and I was willing to do whatever it took to figure it out and to go on this journey, and this healing journey for myself. So in the beginning, that healing journey included therapy, and then it included coaching, and through that I found my worth, and I realized, oh, it is actually possible for me to give myself the love that I'd been seeking outside of myself this entire time.
Right.
And in doing that, it actually made me really, really magnetic, and allowed me to attract healthy relationships into my life, because now I wasn't coming from this place of sadness and desperation, and I was
Right.
able to allow healthy love into my life.
Right.
And having gone through this, and when I went through coaching, and I did private coaching, and then I ended up in a group coaching program. And when I ended up in the group coaching program, I realized that all of the other women in the group coaching program were wanting my advice and wanting my thoughts. And I realized, okay, I really have a way of seeing things, not only for myself but for other people, and for explaining things. And this is really what I'm so, so passionate about. So I went and I got certified as a coach myself,
Yeah.
and stepped into this journey of helping other people to fall in love with themselves, and therefore be able to attract all of the things, which is not just going to be the relationships and the love that you want, but it's also going to be everything else that you want in your life, because it starts with being able to love yourself, because you're never also going to be able to live your passion or put your voice out into the world if
Right.
you don't believe that your voice matters.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And I would say to this morning, I did not love myself. I just had a bad morning, but you know what I mean? Then I could turn it around, because I have to remind myself that I give my permission to myself to feel that way for that one moment, and then move on. Is that how you?
Exactly. And the thing is, well, what sometimes people mistake as self-love, what they think it is, right, is like thinking that you're the most gorgeous, amazing, perfect goddess of like every moment, right? That actually isn't what it is. There are going to be moments that you feel like that. And absolutely, you have to embrace those and hold on to those
Yeah.
moments when you have them and when you feel like them, right? But what it actually is a peace within yourself, right? That you don't like. So it's even if you're having even if you're having a bad day, to say, okay, I'm human and I'm allowed to feel bad and I'm still worthy of existing, and I don't need to pile on myself because these things are happening, right? It's a peace
Absolutely.
within yourself where you're not battling against yourself, where you're not piling on yourself. It's
Yeah.
just where all you are willing to accept all the parts of you. You're willing to accept the bright, happy, amazing parts of you, and you're willing to accept the
Yeah.
the dark, icky,
Yeah.
less fun
Yeah.
parts of you as well.
I find that I just because for me and for anyone that's listening, I have a trick to that because I have my own cup, which is in here inside, and I fill it up, even though it could be bad and ugly, because I still fill it up because I know that I'll be okay. I'm well. I'll be okay. I'm safe. I feel great. But the bad and ugly are part of being a human, right? Because we can't be happy all the time. Well, can we? I don't know. Can we? I'm not happy all the time.
No, you can't be happy all the time, but what I realize is you can be at peace, right? And
Yeah,
that just comes from like
that's
learning to
lovely.
embrace that's like comes from learning to embrace your feelings. So that means like when you're sad, like allowing yourself to be sad.
Be
When you're
sad.
mad,
Right.
allowing yourself to be
Yeah.
mad, not fighting against that, because that's actually what creates the
Yeah.
incredible stress in our lives. It's not
Oh,
all of the
absolutely.
feelings that we're feeling, because there's actually beauty in every feeling. And if you think about music and art, it's often not always created from the best feelings. It's created from bad feelings as well, but it's channeled into something beautiful.
Oh, absolutely. Because and then but I don't know if you watched the Video Music Awards. Eminem was on, and I love Eminem, and I follow him for a long time, and he took a song from Jelly Roll, "Save Me," and put his darkest moments up on his screen while he sang and rapped to that. Well, Jelly Roll, I was like, wow. So that was beautiful. I was just like, that's just absolutely beautiful. So I think that's a great point for everyone to understand is take that dark and ugly spot that you're in, make it beautiful. And we can do that. We can.
Yeah, I mean, one of the like what there's a line from one of Eminem's songs that I
But
love, which is I guess I had to go to that place to get to this one.
yes. Yes, absolutely. And I think I think people I find that when I'm talking to a lot of people like yourself, everyone has a different, I would say, a different special thing about them that people are attracted to you. So when I got on when I first met you, I think we all did was laugh. Like
Yes.
laugh, and all I can see is this beautiful energy of you smiling at me and just sending me, like, it was just absolutely great. And then this when we got on here and we didn't have what were supposed to have, who cares? You just went with the flow, and you're just a beautiful soul, and you've learned so much at a young, I'm gonna say young age, because I'm not even gonna guess your age because you're probably a lot younger than I am. But you're just an incredible woman to come out and teach other women how to love themselves first, because I believe when we get and have children and families, and we grow, we forget about ourselves. We're like, all I got is love for everybody else, but then we forget about us. So
I
can
mean,
you speak
thank
to
you for
that a
saying
bit?
that.
Can you speak
I
to
I appreciate that. But yeah, and it's just, or somehow we think that it's that giving more and more and more and more and
that?
more is somehow going to fill us up, right? And it doesn't,
Exhausting.
it doesn't do that. And also just allowing ourselves to have relationships, because here's the thing, right? There is a joy in giving, but and part of it is filling your own cup. But the thing is having balanced relationships, right? And this is, I feel like sometimes the part that gets missed is that where your cup isn't even allowed to be empty, because you, like, yes, you're pouring into it, but all these other people are pouring into it, so it's constantly an overflow, and then you have this overflow that you're able to pour back into other people, right? Because if you
Yeah.
have a relationship, and even if you're filling your own cup, and then that other person isn't pouring back into it, you're going to keep emptying it, and it's a lot of work to then be the only one that's filling your own cup. Whereas if you have this sort of reciprocation going on where people are pouring into
Yeah.
you, and then there's so much overflow and you're pouring back into them, that everything feels light and effortless, even the heavy moments, because in those moments you realize, okay, because sometimes terrible things are going to happen in life, right? Even if you've carefully created a life that you want, inevitable things that can happen that you just can't, there's nothing to prepare for.
Happen.
People can get sick, there can be accidents, there can be all kinds of freak things that happen. And even in those moments, what I've realized is that when you have all of these people that are supporting you, it's so much lighter, it's so much easier. And even in those moments, you can have so much gratitude because you realize how supported you are in those moments.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I have a cheerleader. I have a cheerleader. I love my cheerleader. And it's not who I'm married to. It's one of my best friends is my cheerleader, and she does fill my cup. But the other thing, when you said that, what I picture in my brain is what I picture. So you have your cup or your bucket or whatever you have, and you're fill. And all I can hear is the bottom is you, and you're trying to climb out of this bucket with everyone else's shit on top. And that's where a lot of people get stuck is you try to climb up and you get pushed back down to the bottom of the bucket while everyone else is piling crap on top of you because you're allowing them to take it in until you give yourself permission and say, you know what? Back off, right? And then
Yeah, I
empty
mean,
your
and
cup.
that's one of the also an element of, I guess, self-love that people really miss as well, right? Because I mean, so much of what is fed to us is like, go for the spa days, go for this, and those are fantastic, and absolutely, if you can and if you want to and if you
And
desire
afford
to,
it.
you should
Yeah, absolutely.
absolutely do those things. But the thing is, you also cannot love somebody that you do not know. And how many of us actually take the time to know ourselves, to know what we really like, to know what we don't like, to know
Right.
what works for us, right? It's kind of like, if you've ever seen the movie Runaway Bride,
Yes.
right? And then she doesn't even know how she likes her eggs, but so many people, it's a classic example. They don't even know what their preferences are. They don't even know what they like. And and then you start learning about boundaries and you start learning about other things. But how do
Yeah.
you hold those things when you don't even know what your boundary is, because you don't even know who you are, because you don't even know what you want? And so a lot of times, because sometimes when you're in this place where you really don't have any self-worth and you don't love yourself, right? This is where people get stuck. And I did for a long time, right? Because affirmations and things like that, they're great, but they work when you don't have so much resistance. Because when you have, when your internal dialogue is saying, I'm worthless, and you're saying, I'm worthy, you're going to feel
Right.
awful, and those
Yeah.
affirmations are going to make you feel so bad, right? And if people realize, okay, where you can start actually is, you don't have to start there. Start by self-discovery.
Yeah.
Just find out, be curious about yourself. Ask yourself the type of questions that you would ask somebody if you were really trying to get to know them and you wanted to see if you were compatible with them, and you want to
Yeah.
ask those things of yourself. Journal, spend that time with yourself, figure out what you like. And as you start to do that, as you start to focus your attention on yourself, right? Because our attention is what makes something special and makes something lovable, right? And sometimes people are doubtful of this, but okay, think of somebody in your past, like maybe
Yeah.
when you were younger, maybe when you were a teenager, that you had the biggest crush on. You thought they were
Yeah.
so
My phys ed
amazing.
teacher. I'm
Where you're
serious.
like, but probably you spent a lot of time
Yeah.
focusing on this person, learning all of these
Yeah.
details about this person. It could be a celebrity, researching. And the thing is, the energy that you poured into them is
Yes.
what made them special, right? And then once you shifted the energy away, and then you kind of look at it from a different lens, and you're like, oh,
Oh.
but if you
But it
start
was
putting
fun.
that energy towards yourself, right, and it can just show up as curiosity and interest,
I love
you
it.
will naturally start to care more about yourself because of the energy that you're diverting towards yourself. And it doesn't have to be these affirmations or saying these things that if you don't believe that they're true yet. Just even approaching yourself, getting really, really curious and getting really, really interested in yourself
Mhm.
can start to be the attention that you start to pour on yourself that starts to make you feel really special.
I feel like you've been on my shoulder for the last, I don't know, 5 years telling me this. And that's where I am now. Got curious. Got
Yeah,
curious, got creative.
yeah,
Asked for help. So I'm a
yeah,
service. So asked, dove in actually to people who could help me that I wanted on my team. And it's
yeah.
kind of neat that you said that because I believe you've been on my shoulder telling me, get curious. So, and I think that's so important for people, especially when I can remember being a mom and I remember the change from kindergarten to grade 1. kindergarten, I had 2 hours by myself. So I did stuff by myself. Then grade one, you had a full day and you're like, now what do I do? And you totally forgot about you because you were so worried at what time you had to pick them up. You got to get groceries, got to do that, da, 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 da. But now it's kind of, I wish I learned what you're teaching people way back in the day, to take the time to be
Yeah.
curious about you, because yes, it's great that I'm at my age. Okay, I'm 59 at my age, figuring it out now, because I know the next 50 years I'm going to have are going to be fantastic. But can you imagine what it would be like if I learned earlier? And that's why you're here on this earth, is to teach us, to teach all the people out there, men and
Yeah,
women.
I mean, and the thing is, it's never
It's
too
never too
late.
late.
Like, it's never too late. But the thing is, of course, the like, because but you only know the things you know
Yeah,
when
absolutely.
you know them, right? And
I
and
love
it's
it.
all okay, right? And I
Yeah,
think
I
that
love it.
having gone through those experiences sometimes makes it easier for you to absorb, because we're also at a certain stage in our life where, you know, I
Mhm.
know everything, I know everything, I know everything, and you're not
I
really
don't know
receptive.
anything.
You're not really right. And
Nothing.
no, but that's
I
typically
just
as you get older, you're like I don't
I
know.
I think it's more like I'm tired, I don't wanna know anything. But, to be honest with
But
you,
what, the younger that you are, typically it's like I know everything. I know I know
my mother will
everything.
say the same thing. "Oh, yeah, you went to university, but then you knew everything." And then she would
Yeah.
say, "Oh, you had a baby, you knew everything." I'm like, "Maybe I did." But, that's a lot of ego playing too as well. Not big ego playing, there's a little bit of ego playing. I'm a mom, I'm a university graduate. That was ego playing, and until I figured that out, then that was easy enough to say, "Back off, ego, and then open and be creative." Right? Because but ego pops up every once in a while, right? And do you deal with that pop up when people have that guy on your shoulder going, "Yeah, no," and then you have the other guy go, "Oh, absolutely, go for it." Do you
So the thing
which one of you?
is, okay, your ego, like, sometimes also, like, I guess, like, spirituality will tell you that your ego is bad. It isn't, right? Because again, you can't battle any part of yourself, and you have to accept every single part of yourself, and your ego is a part of you, right? And it's a part of you that wants to organize things and have an identity, right? It's just
Absolutely.
that, like, there is a bigger part of you that is going to feel boxed in by one identity, because because you can be a mother, you can be a wife, you can be all of these things, a
Yeah,
university grad, but you are also more than that, right? And so
absolutely. Yeah.
it's just, and when you start to only put those labels on yourself, right? And you start to organize yourself in that way, it starts to feel confining to your soul, right? So it's
Absolutely.
just sometimes just recognizing, and it's saying, okay, yeah, this is the part of myself that wants this level of organization, that wants to put things in categories, and it's not a bad thing, right? And it's saying
Yeah,
that all of these, and acknowledging, yes, all of these things are true,
right.
and more, right? And
And
then
more.
it's like, and then you're not fighting against your ego either, right? It's if you're trying to say no, but like, I shouldn't focus on this, I shouldn't focus on that, that is when you start to have the internal
Then you have the
battle.
internal battle go on.
Yeah, that when you start to, the shouldn'ts don't
Shoulda,
work,
coulda,
right?
woulda. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Is that what it is? Shoulda, coulda, woulda. It's
And
a
then
big
the other thing that happens, right, is when you come from a history of trauma, right? Okay, if you have a very, very healthy childhood, one of the things that your parents should do for you is to be able to hold belief and to be able to hold vision for you, right? So when if okay, let's just say you're wanting to
questionable
learn
vision.
if you're wanting to learn to ride a bicycle, right? And it's like and you're thinking, I can't do this is too hard, I can't figure out how to
Yeah.
do this, right? Part of this is, a healthy parent should be able to say, yes, you can, and you're going to do this, and you're going to figure this out, and don't worry even if you fall. And not everybody gets that, right? And then when you don't get that, oftentimes as you get older, you don't believe that you deserve that, which is actually the thing that stops you from going to get help. Because what people don't realize is, when you get help, when you have mentors, when you have support, what they do for you is what that parent couldn't have done for you or didn't do for
Yeah.
you in your past, is
Yeah.
that they hold that vision for you. So
Yeah.
even if you can't see yourself somewhere, and this is exactly what I do for my clients, because when they tell me what's going on for them, right,
Yeah.
I can see them in their next step, the next part of their life. I can hold that vision so clearly
for them.
And so it gives them a place for them to step into, right? It allows them to step into that belief. And it also heals that inner child part of them that didn't get that when they were a child. And then they start to believe that they're worthy of it. And then it becomes easier to do that for yourself. But if you've never had that, it's very, very hard to be able to do that for yourself.
Oh, no, I've had my mom and dad were my biggest cheerleaders growing up too, as well. Lots of competitive sports, and they're the loudest on the stands.
Yeah.
I had a great childhood. They were awesome folks. And then as I grew up, getting older, they were my cheerleaders too. But of course, but one thing I want to talk about is that the one thing, I don't know, I'm a big Dr. Wayne Dyer fan. And when I read his book, The Shift, and I knew that I was going through something in my life with ego. And he said, ego stands for edging God out. And I thought about that or source, whatever your source is, God, source, whatever.
Yeah.
And I thought about that for a bit, and I went, he's absolutely right. Because you gotta have something other to have a belief in, right? Because everyone is different. And if you let that love in, and just your body will just flow. And being a personal trainer and telling people that the power of the mind is huge. It is huge. And I believe that's where some of that comes from, that mindset you're talking about with people. You're their cheerleader.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a personal trainer, you're holding the vision of what they can do physically, because they're going to come in and they're going to say, I can't do a sit-up, and you're going to say, you can do 100, right?
Maybe not today.
Yeah, but you can see that, right? And that's what it takes, right?
It's kind of holding space. Like, I love the one thing I do is I do hold space when I'm for that person with the negativity, because oh my God, I'm sore. Oh my God, you hear it all. And then what's nice about it is that space that I hold for them in that session, and for the rest of it, I can put aside so it doesn't affect me. Just like you would be able to do, because I'm assuming that you have a bazillion clients that come to you. I don't think you can take all of them in and leave them in your brain.
No, and I mean, this is also why, I mean, there's so many amazing coaches and mentors out there. The one thing that I always do, if someone wants to sign up to coach with me, I always do a preliminary call, because I always tell people,
click.
There's more than one road to get to the destination that you want to get to. But if you are going to get to that destination, you have to be able to trust me as your guide, because there might be 10 different roads and there's 10 different guides. And if you're trying to follow everyone, you're going to walk around in a big circle and you're not going to get anywhere, because you're not going up the mountain. You're just going in these circles, following all these different directions. So you have to be willing to stay on whatever road it is. And if I'm not that road, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Doesn't mean that they can't get to wherever they want to get to, but they have to have enough trust in me, and we have to be able to work together so that we can actually move towards the destination.
I think that's fantastic. I think that's good for everyone, even personal trainers too. But power of testimonial. The power of testimony is huge. It's huge. And you have a beautiful testimonial how you got from where you were to now in that. And I can see when you talk about what you do, how much power and passion you have coming out of that beautiful smile. You smile a lot, by the way. You're like me. I love smiling. You just have this beautiful energy about you that's calming, and it's truth. It's authentic. And I love it. 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 So I'm going to post all your little social media stuff with the podcast. But one of the questions, okay, ready? One of the questions on the Google Doc that I sent you was something quirky about you. What's quirky about Navi? Something really.
Okay, so I mean, one of the things that's actually kind of quirky about me is, so I'm an inspirational speaker. I love getting up on stages and speaking, but I'm also afraid every single time.
Really?
And that is something that people don't like. So I love it. Once I'm up there, I love it, because I love to be able to connect with people in that way. And I love to be able to connect with a lot of people in that way. But I'm still terrified, and I still have butterflies in my stomach every single time before I get up there. So it's and I think that sometimes people think, oh, you're a speaker, you must love it. And I do love it, but I'm also absolutely terrified.
Like, but I bet everyone says visualize the audience naked. That doesn't help. I'm telling you. It does not help me that I'm visualizing the guy over there naked. Like, seriously, that's not helping. But no, I can see it because I love speaking in front of people too as well. But I get so nervous. But once you get in the flow, then you're fine. That's fun. I would not have known that. How many like you speak? What's the biggest audience you had?
So I guess the biggest audience that I've spoken to, because it was a combination of in-person and virtual, was probably about 4,000.
What? Okay, I'd be like, I'm not going out ever. That is fantastic, but you're a natural at it. You're very much a natural at it because I can see it right now. You're just natural at speaking. We're just going off the cuff here at You Do You because we don't have anything and we're having a great conversation. You're just a natural. You can read me a bedtime story one day. I got boys.
Well, the one thing I try to do is just be real and be honest. And I actually one of the things that actually happened to me. So I had my worst nightmare happen when I was on stage one time.
Hey, story time.
So when I was there was a speech that I was giving, and that day they were filming a documentary at that event, and there was a bunch of things going on. They had a whole bunch of equipment, and so I started my speech, and it started off great. And then my mic failed because of all of the technical issues that they were having, and so people couldn't hear me. So the organizer of the event came up and said, "Stop. We need to figure out what's happening with the equipment. So go backstage. We're going to figure this out." And then they figured it out. And then I had to go back out and I had to start again. And that threw me off because I don't use cards. I didn't have a teleprompter. I just go and I speak, right? And I mean, I want to speak honestly, so it's not necessarily memorized word for word, but there is a rhythm to what I'm saying. There is an idea. There's certain poetic elements that I have in what I'm saying. And I started, and then I lost what I was saying, and I started forgetting. And I wanted to run off stage and I wanted to start sobbing, but I continued. And even though I was fumbling, and everybody knew that I was fumbling, everyone knew that I was forgetting because there's parts that I was repeating and I was going in circles, and it was absolutely mortifying. The worst thing that can ever happen to a speaker. But I persevered and I persevered. And then by the end of the last 2 minutes, I finally found my footing, which was actually the most important part. And I was able to say what I needed to say. And I still ended up getting a standing ovation at the end of it. And even then, at that moment of getting the standing ovation, I'm mortified. I didn't even want to receive it because I didn't think I deserved it, right? And I wanted to run off stage. But I didn't, and I held my composure, and then I wanted to hide until everyone left backstage, and I didn't want to go out and interact with people, but I did because we had an intermission. And what I realized through that is two things. One, that even if the worst happens, even if I feel like I'm going to die, I'm not actually going to die. And I can persevere and I can push through it, and I will be okay. And number two, I ended up getting a number of private clients after that because people resonated with my authenticity and they appreciated my courage of staying there and showing up instead of hiding and running away. And now that has made me an even better speaker because I realize if that ever happens again, it's going to be so much easier for me to deal with because I already dealt with it once, and that actually decreases the likelihood of it happening again. And this is what people sometimes get caught up in their lives, especially with relationships. If someone hasn't dated for a long time and they've come out of a bad relationship, they're scared to go on a date, right? And they're thinking, and then they might mess up. They could go, the first date could go terribly. The first 5 dates could go terribly. But the thing is, what they're going to realize is, you might come home from that and cry because you embarrassed yourself because it went terribly. But you know what? Now, if it happens again, it's going to be a little bit easier.
You can share the story. The last date I'm on. I always remember, I used to figure skate. pretty high. And I always remember, like, you get out there, you got nerves going, and my mom would stand by me as I was going to the gate to go out, and she would say with me, 1, 2, 3, routine, because I had it in my head, but if it went sideways, who cares? Improv, man. You're good at it. And that's what it was. It was just, it's a routine, but it's fun to have that improv come in, and look what you did. You stood up on the stage and amongst a bazillion people and did your thing. And that's why people loved it, because you're authentic and you're beautiful. I would love to see you speak one day. One day, if I'm in Toronto and you can let me know, I'll come and see you.
Yeah,
I love it. I love it. I
absolutely.
think it's great. Well, I like to say to everybody out there, one takeaway, if you can give one little advice out there, just one, for people out there, what would it be? What would it be?
The takeaway that I always like to give people is, because when people listen to sort of a personal development, self-help podcast, or on a journey like that, right? You can start to notice all of the things in your life that you're quote unquote doing wrong, right? And then start
Yeah.
to and start to really judge yourself, right?
Yeah.
But instead, what you should be celebrating is the awareness that you're noticing these things now, which means that you're already one step ahead than you were from the moment before you listened to this podcast. So instead of judging yourself, just embrace that awareness that you have and take that with you to the next step, because that is amazing and it deserves to be celebrated. And what already happened, what you didn't know, you didn't know. So celebrate your awareness and let go of the judgment.
Absolutely. Everybody out there, celebrate your awareness. Celebrate you. Why not? We're all human, right? We're all human. Thank you so much, Navi, for being on this podcast. I love it. I'll put all her media. You can connect with her, have a call with her, see if you love her, because I do. See if you love her. And we'll hopefully let's chat soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're very welcome.